From the land of frozen lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. Yes. I think for the first time in months, we're not going to lead with the NFL. We're going to go right into the NBA. Specifically, the Minnesota Timberwolves, one of the 30 teams in the association. And it looks like a major victory for Mark Lore and Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, as they win an arbitration case to wrestle majority control of the Timberwolves from Glen Taylor, the longtime owner.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say that the reason we're not talking NFL is because I forbade it. You walked into the studio and the first thing you want to talk about is football. Holy
That's
smokes.
not true, but this is our bye week. We go combine next week.
All
combine. All
and then he starts talking combine. Oh my goodness. There's something wrong with you. Glen Taylor loses an arbitration case 2-1, according to press release that we read from Glen and the Timberwolves. I know he's disappointed. I think that it's a wait and see how this ownership group is going to do as owners of the Timberwolves and Lynx. Look, Glen had a lot of success with the Lynx. They won 4 titles. They made it to the title game 2 other times, or a title series 2 other times, so they finished runners-up twice, including this past season. So a ton of success with the Lynx. A very checkered history with the Wolves, mostly on the bad side. They went years after, Kevin Garnett left town. They went all the way to, 2019 before they even made it to the playoffs again?
You had a major suspension because of tampering way back in the day with Joe Smith.
And that led to a lot of the down years. I don't think there's any question. You trade Kevin Garnett and you get Al Jefferson in return? Holy smokes.
And then tampering to get Joe Smith. The NBA came down, like a ton of bricks on the organization.
They did.
Kevin McHale went away for a while. Glenn went away, and they were crippled trying to recover from that.
And then let's not forget, though, that was partially on Kevin Garnett because he went in and told Glenn and Kevin McHale that he wanted Joe Smith on the squad, and so they did everything they could to keep Kevin Garnett happy. Let's not forget that part.
No,
I think a lot of people put that in the rearview mirror. Well, that's part of the deal.
In the same draft, Joe Smith was the number 1 overall pick out of Maryland. KG went number 5 out of Farragut Academy High School in Chicago. Of course, if you were to redraft, obviously Joe Smith would drop and KG might be number 1 overall. But you're right, they were buds and didn't work out. And, Glenn kept the team here. Bob Arum wanted to buy the Minnesota Timberwolves back in the 1990s and take them downriver to NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana. Right. Glenn stepped in, saved the day. So kudos for that. Like you said, the Minnesota Lynx are historically good. They're one of the top WNBA teams.
No doubt.
In the history of the W Association. Mark Lore, A-Rod, the sticking point was money. Getting Glenn enough money up front. Now, apparently, they have the billionaire Michael Bloomberg funding their efforts along with somebody from Google. If you're with Google, you probably have coin, right?
Yeah, I would say that's probably true.
They're better set up, Lore and A-Rod, to take the reins. Could be a good thing. Alex Rodriguez played for the New York Yankees for part of his career. They demand excellence in the Bronx. Maybe he's going to demand the same things here.
Okay, let's not forget he sat out a year for admittedly taking steroids.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Just win, baby.
Okay. I think for A-Rod, this is more of a toy than anything. This is something fun for him to do, which is great. As long as he has the right pieces in place. They're the ones that inspired Glen Taylor or talked Glen Taylor into hiring Conley.
Yes.
Tim Conley, the general manager.
And I give that a C grade right now.
Right, yeah. Went out and got Rudy Gobert. Year 1 was not very good. Year 2 was a lot better. And then they trade Cat at the beginning of this season. Not so good right now. Karl Anthony Towns is doing his thing in New York, and the Timberwolves with, Julius Randle is on the shelf and has been hurt for a while, and he's no Karl Anthony Towns, and the Timberwolves are a mediocre team. They're a 500 team, basically.
And if you look at last season, So the fingerprints of A-Rod and Mark Lowry and Glenn are all over last season. So how do you because that's the second most successful Timberwolves season ever, going to the Western Conference Finals, another pinnacle moment. They've only had a couple, right? Who has more fingerprints on the building of that team, Glenn, or was it Lowry and A-Rod? I think it's probably a little bit more of Glenn, but definitely Lowry and A-Rod had a hand in that.
Well, yeah. I mean, Anthony Edwards came under Glenn, clearly. He was drafted under Glenn.
Cat was Flip's guy.
But Flip was hired by Glenn. I mean, let's be honest about this.
I know you're probably more pro-Glenn in this.
I am.
I tend to be like, let's give the new guys a chance.
Not saying we don't give them a chance. I'm just saying that I think, and I saw something that Jim Suhan wrote in the Star Tribune this week right after the ruling came down, and I agree with him. Glenn was more, you know what you're going to get. We don't know what we're going to get here. And first and foremost, something that's going to probably happen that you're not going to like, they're going to want a new arena. They are not going to be satisfied. And we heard Mark Lowry was on this show about 2 years ago, and he basically told us, well, we'll just take it one step at a time. Well, the next step right now is for them to want a new arena and then build stuff around it.
Well, they'll be going to St. Paul with a tin cup in their hands, begging for millions to get this new arena. And I'm on board of saying what they have is fine. You can upgrade it some more. I'm okay with that too. But I guess here would be the good news.
Okay.
Once A-Rod and Mark Lowry become rubber-stamped as the new owners, Kevin Garnett may show up back in the building, probably get a banner, retire the jersey number, maybe get a statue someday. Now, I can't guarantee that. I think the rift between KG and the Timberwolves is as wide as the Grand Canyon, and most of that is KG and Glenn.
Right.
Something happened, and I'm not going to even take sides, but something happened. But if Glenn goes, KG may soften a bit and come back into the building. Who knows? Get him into the organization.
Well, I think that was the plan. And when McHale left and then Flip died, then that went south. And here we are right now with the current situation where Glenn and KG aren't talking, and Glenn is now on his way out, most likely.
Yeah, the Timberwolves need some more statues. What have they done? They've hidden George Mikan, I think. And Sid's right between Target Center and Target Field, and that's outside of the arena.
Yeah.
Got to get KG a statue. Also Maya Moore, too.
All right, more Wolves talk, basketball talk with Lea B Olsen, Timberwolves broadcaster.
10K takes your T-Wolves ticket.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
True love stories never have endings. However, they do have beginnings. Congratulations on your engagement. Begin planning your special wedding day at weddingsoflakeville.com, where you'll discover over a dozen reception venues accommodating up to 600 guests. Go to weddingsoflakeville.com and choose settings that are intimate, serene, outdoors, historical, state-of-the-art, traditional, and even country club style. Feel confident. Weddingsoflakeville.com provides recommendations from businesses we know and trust.
Push harder, recover faster, look and feel your best. At $5.10, our infrared saunas are the secret weapon for athletes, fitness, and wellness lovers. Infrared heat penetrates deep to relieve sore muscles, boost circulation, and speed up recovery so you can stay in the game. Upgrade your fitness routine. Recover like a pro. Visit $5.10 today to step up your wellness. Visit our website at $5.10.com for infrared locations. Feel good, perform great. And we continue to roll along here on 10,000 Takes. Of course, we spent the entire last segment talking about the ownership change at the top of the Minnesota Timberwolves tree. And we're going to get a little more insight into that and talk some basketball with Lea B Olsen. She is, of course, Timberwolves and Lynx broadcaster. Lea, thank you for coming on. Let me ask you this right away. I read the Star Tribune game recap from Monday night in Cleveland. And Chris Hine, the first thing he mentioned in the article was there some kind of cloud hanging over the players as a result of the change. Now, I did dispute that. I think as a player, you're focused on winning basketball, and you're 800 miles away from Minneapolis. So I don't know how that affects it or not. What it affected it actually was the way Cleveland played. They just beat the Wolves up. But your thoughts on the potential effects of the ownership change on the players' side of things?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think most of the players really aren't aware of what's going on with ownership and what's been happening behind the scenes here for the last 3 months. I think people in the front offices are very aware and have been on pins and needles as far as how are things going to change, what's it going to look like, what's the new group going to look like, or what was the old group going to look like. I think no one had any idea what was going to go down in this. And that's what made this last couple of months so kind of intense and intriguing, is because nobody had any idea. And so when it came down, I think it was a big surprise to people, only that because people didn't know which way it was going to go. I think it was that tight that it wasn't a sure thing either way. And so when the first word I heard of it was, we were in the press conference right before the game with Chris Finch. And when a reporter asked him, what do you think of the ownership change? He was taken by surprise. And I looked at someone and said, is that confirmed? And everyone was just learning of it right at that moment, which, was 45 minutes before the tilt against Cleveland.
Lea, I think there's going to be a strong drumbeat to try to get a new venue for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I happen to like Target Center. I like its location.
Yeah, great.
Your
location.
thoughts? I know you've covered Lynx and Timberwolves in that venue, and certainly, as you said with the players, I don't think they worry about where they play. They just want to get paid and perform on that given game that they're in. But what are your thoughts on the arena, and will that fly in Minnesota now, where things are tight, things are tough?
Yeah, it's a different era. Well, here's the one thing, that keeping up with the stadiums in the NBA is really, really difficult. And when you're traveling and you're going into these new arenas, you're like, wow, Target Center is really outdated. And it's just because there's so many new buildings that have restaurants, courtside seats. Everyone has just luxury every part of their stadium. And Target Center was built in an era, if you remember, it's on a 1 square block. No building since then has ever been built on that small of a block. And it was built kind of upside down, where Harv and Marv wanted to have more seats upstairs to support people who couldn't afford tickets than downstairs. And there's no building in the NBA that has that anymore. And so there is something completely special and unique about Target Center, but it is, from the NBA standpoint, definitely considered outdated.
Well, that's kind of sad, actually, when you think about it, because I think that the average fan, to go to a basketball game, even to go right now to a Timberwolves game, if you want to sit lower bowl, it's spendy. And the upper bowl at least allows the average fan to go. And if the upper bowl becomes another lower bowl price-wise, I mean, are you pricing yourselves out of what the average fan or what a fan is willing to pay?
I wonder that, and I'm wondering how all these other cities are doing it. And maybe people are changing the way that they do games, and maybe it's like we get to go once a year to have some type of experience. But what's become incredibly important to at least lower level people who sit in those lower level seats is that you have an experience of eating in a special restaurant space, is that you have access in a special area, and that you also have good seats. And so that's where the money piece comes into it, is that you have access to those types of things.
Well, and it's funny too, Lea. I've been in that Lexus club, and I've seen some of the cooler parts of Target Center. If you've got money and access, isn't that enough? Because I still want to go and watch a game, and I think sometimes it's sensory overload. I haven't been inside Inuit Dome. I've seen it from the outside, but from what we're told, that thing is like stepping into 3025. It is so futuristic.
Wild. Yeah. I mean, some of the things, that they're focusing on, is so, it's the electronics in the seats, and the seat backs move back and forth. And then you can communicate with the board up above and all of that. It's just things that we really, like you're saying, if you're really just coming to watch the game, you don't need any of that stuff. But then it's just kind of like what young people are dealing with. If that's what everybody else has, that's kind of what you want. So that makes it more difficult. So I would guess that a new building piece is going to be, top priority. And I think that the Timberwolves have done a nice job of trying to update that building as much as you can. And how they've moved things around, and they added that Lexus Club. That used to be the front lobby of the building, and that turned into a restaurant. And then there's now a new restaurant in the back for people who sit in certain seats. There's all kinds of changes that have been done to that building. And so the bottom line is can they continue to change it?
Yeah. We have a running joke in our family when I bring my sons or my wife to a game, whether it's Timberwolves or Twins or whatever, with people that are not engaged in the game. We say, what game? If you see somebody on their phone or see somebody in a restaurant and not paying attention, we say, what game? So anyway, well, Lea, we appreciate you spending some time with us here and giving us a little insight on the Wolves and the changes over there at Target Center. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Thank
Lea. You. She is Lea B Olsen here on 10,000 Takes. Eric and I will be back with more after this time on. Stay with us.
From the Iron Range down to the Prairie Lands, over to Lakes Country, south to the Twin Cities, and back up the North Shore, the game of basketball has always been more than just a game in Minnesota. Now in its 35th year, the MYS Grade State Basketball Championships have become a cornerstone of Minnesota youth basketball. Representing nearly 180 Minnesota Youth Basketball Alliance member associations, Grade State showcases teams and communities from all corners of the state. It's a tradition that has inspired generations of players, coaches, and communities. 645 girls teams, 1,029 boys teams, and over 15,000 players. From local courts to the national stage, our athletes continue to leave their mark. Together, we honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire the future. Minnesota made for 35 years. See you on the court.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
True love stories never have endings. However, they do have beginnings. Congratulations on your engagement. Begin planning your special wedding day at weddingsoflakeville.com, where you'll discover over a dozen reception venues accommodating up to 600 guests. Go to weddingsoflakeville.com and choose settings that are intimate, serene, outdoors, historical, state-of-the-art, traditional, and even country club style. Feel confident. Weddingsoflakeville.com provides recommendations from businesses we know and trust.
Welcome back. 10,000 Takes, and the land of 10,000 Lakes also has a bunch of stadiums and owners that want these stadiums upgraded or knocked down and bring in new ones. I mean, just some crazy stuff. And we started the show talking about the Timberwolves, obviously, and what Mark Laurie and Alex Rodriguez are going to want to do. We already know U.S. Bank Stadium, they've been talking about this forever and wanting to make improvements on that. How much do they want for that thing? How much did they spend on that fence they put around it?
Yeah, they've got a perimeter around it, thank goodness.
The $35 million on a fence that they put around it so the people can't get to it. I mean, look, you've got Target Center that Laurie and A-Rod are likely going to want out of. You've got the XL Energy Center, which is probably one of, if not the top venue in all of the National Hockey League, all of North America for that matter, and they want improvements for that. As a matter of fact, they want to put like businesses around it hook up into it. That's what these guys want now. They want these extra venues to hook into what they already have.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Back in the day, it was all about luxury suites. The newer venues had luxury boxes, and every owner that didn't have a new stadium or arena had to get those. And then it became PSLs, especially in the NFL. Personal seat licenses, which is total extortion. That's all that is and always will be. As far as this entertainment district, let's blame our friends down in Georgia. The Atlanta Braves moved to that suburban stadium north of the Peachtree City about 5 to 7 years ago, and there's a thing around it called the Battery. I've been to that venue once. It's just nothing but bars, restaurants, movie theaters, things like that. And the Braves control the revenue coming in. So now every other owner around all the pro sports, they start drooling. Whoa, that's another revenue source. Well, there's nothing wrong with the XL Energy Center. Let me tell you, it's outstanding. I don't care if they get a Battery around there. I go there to watch hockey.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of restaurants you can go to. You don't need to be going to ones that are built by and for the Minnesota Wild.
Right.
Aren't they making enough money inside the building on food? I mean, if you try to buy a hot dog in that place.
Yeah, or go buy a sweater, buy a Capri Soft sweater. You're going to need to give the mortgage payment to these guys to get that. It's pricey. I still think Target Center's fine. I'm okay with upgrades. I love the location. It's the warehouse district. There's already a built-in entertainment district. But the problem is the Twins and the Timberwolves don't control that. They don't get any of that jing.
Yeah, and I'm not calling Target Center a dump. I've heard some people.
I don't.
I don't know how you do that. I mean, I'm there to watch basketball. I don't know about the rest of you people out there, but how do you call Target Center a dump? Does it have all the bells and whistles that some of these brand new arenas that were built in 2023 and 2024 have? Probably not. As a matter of fact, no is the answer to that. But do you really need that?
I don't really want it. And here's what happens every time we keep stepping into the future. Joe and Jane Blow out there who are on a fixed income cannot afford to go to the games. And it's really sad when you price out the middle class or even the lower middle class or, dare I say it, lower income. These people should be able to go to these things and see a game once in a while. As far as the House of Noise, U.S. Bank Stadium, it was just built. They've already had to fix falling zinc tile and roof issues. How about just take the roof off? That's my suggestion.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we'll take the roof.
You'll save on a heating bill.
Yeah, that's about as likely as the Minnesota Timberwolves staying in Target Center for the next 25 years. Do you fear that the new ownership group will threaten to move the Wolves?
They're going to deny it, but A-Rod has ties to Seattle when he played for the Mariners. Vegas is sitting out there. I hope they don't play that relocation card. But here's what I'm already hearing. With the Luka to LA Lakers for Anthony Davis trade, that the Mavericks' new owner is heavy into Vegas connections, and that they want the Mavs to leave the Metroplex for Las Vegas. Don't know how true that is.
Well, the Timberwolves can move to Dallas.
That's what I thought, just like the North Stars.
Oh, boy. Let's not go there. All right, we will go here. We're going to go to Takes of the Day. That's coming up next. You're watching 10,000 Takes. Stay with us.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Wally and Eric from 10,000 Takes here in the land of lakes. And if you want sports of all sorts, check us out. We cover all the bases, all the teams in the great state of Minnesota.
Vikings, Twins, Wild, Gophers, Timberwolves, Loons, you name it, we do it. Late night Saturday night on Fox 9 Plus and on the Fox local app.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. Big shout out to the viewers in the Twin Ports, also the Twin Cities. We go up and down the busy I-35 corridor. All right. Are these folks watching going to see a happy camper, an angry American, a sarcastic Sam? What's your mood this week?
Well, my mood was pretty good when I learned that the Vikings and former Viking got some recognition, NFL honors about a week or so ago, a little over a week ago, before the Super Bowl. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell gets Coach of the Year honors. Congratulations to him. And Jared Allen, the former Minnesota Viking defensive lineman. Of course, he played for the Chiefs and a number of other teams as well, but probably spent the brunt of his career right here in Minnesota. He is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. Now, part of the reason that a guy like Jared Allen gets into the Hall of Fame these days is because the team he played for, or the teams they played for, help prop him up. They do a great job of PR, getting their guy into the Hall of Fame. This is not to throw shade on Jared Allen. He deserves to be there. But what in the name of Fran Tarkenton are the Minnesota Vikings doing for Tarkenton's number one guy on offense through the heart of those 1970s Chuck Foreman? How in the world are you continuing to promote player after player after player? And I could say the same thing about Jim Marshall, but they have done very little, if anything, to try and prop up Chuck Foreman and get him into the Hall of Fame. A guy that won 2 MVP awards. 1974, he was the Sporting News MVP. 1976, he was the UPI NFC Player of the Year. I don't understand why the Minnesota Vikings are worried about getting all these other guys into the Hall of Fame and they're not putting number 44 in. He has the numbers. He has the credentials. By the way, there's now talk, who's the next Viking that should go in? Of course, there's a lot of talk about Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson did a lot of great things. But right now, I will tell you, Adrian Peterson did not get the Vikings to a single Super Bowl. Chuck got him to 3.
All right, let's check that mood meter. Oh, yeah, angry American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, justifiably so. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings, there are people in that organization who don't even know their history.
Or know who Chuck is.
That was the heyday back then. They actually went to Super Bowl. So, yeah, he belongs in, clearly. Chuck Foreman. Get him in. All right, well, my take of the day, the Super Bowl has come and gone.
Thank goodness.
Congrats to Philadelphia. They take the confetti shower, bring home the Lombardi to the city of not-so-brotherly love. The halftime show. All right, Kendrick Lamar. Some people loved it. Others were yawning. Others got up and cooked their pizza.
I did.
Whatever. Your tastes are your tastes. But I will say this. I've been to 27 Super Bowls, so I ranked my top 3 halftime shows I've seen. Number 1 has to be Super Bowl 41 in a Miami monsoon. Prince, Purple Rain. It was epic, and I think a lot of people think that, generally speaking, is the most electric halftime show in the history of all the Super Bowls. Number 2, I'm going to give it to Janet Jackson. The wardrobe malfunction. Super Bowl 38 in Houston. Unfortunately, I was sitting up there in the upper levels of then Reliant Stadium. I really couldn't see what was happening. I had to find out about it later. Number 3, we'll go with Super Bowl 43, The Boss. Bruce Springsteen in Tampa. Boy, I've seen Springsteen in concert in person 2 times. One in his home state of New Jersey. That was fabulous. But it was also fun to see him at a Super Bowl. So if you ever do go to a Super Bowl, you're going to get a concert at halftime. Whether you like it or not, well, depends on your taste.
Yeah. I say Michael Jackson was my favorite.
Well, he's a moonwalker.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On that note, we got to go. Yes. Let's FedEx those thank yous. One to David Weld, Paul Langfellow, Rocky, and, of course, to Lea B Olsen. He's Wally. I'm Eric saying so long. We are 10K Takes, your sports ticket.